Great. Hi, I'm Jeff Dunkelberger. I'm PCOM class of 95, family doc out in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We're going to have a podcast today and talk about fathers and sons in medicine. I'd like for the panel to all introduce themselves, and we'll start with our most distinguished individual, Dr. Harvey Specter. If you'd tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I don't know if I'm distinguished. I'm the oldest. So anyhow, I graduated PCOM. It was called PCOM at that time, believe it or not, in 1963. So I've been hanging around for about 59 years. And I was president of the POFPS. I was president of POMA. And my son, when he was younger, always seemed to show an interest in medicine. I never prodded him. I never said, this is what you have to do. He did this himself, and I'm proud to say he's where he is today.
Thank you. Dr. Larry, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, Jeff, Dad, and Matthew. I will take the honor of being the most distinguished Specter if my dad doesn't want it.
Go right ahead.
Since there were large shoes to fill for many years, I think we both now work for the Temple Health System, and now I've taken over the reins of the honorable, distinguished Dr. Specter. I graduated in 1994 from PCOM, proudly graduated, and trained down at Christiana, Delaware for internal medicine, a little different than my dad, who's primary care. And then have subsequently been a hospitalist for 18 years and now work for the Temple Health System and go to some nursing homes, help with some short-term care patients that come out of the hospital, as well as do some administrative duties. But clearly enjoy every day. Some days are longer than others for the young Dr. Dunkelberger. They're worth it. I know they're worth it, but very proud to be a PCOM grad and certainly proud to be Harvey Specter's son at PCOM.
Great. Thanks so much. Matt, you want to tell everybody who you are?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Dunkelberger. Right now I'm second year going into my third year. Gonna start going on rotations. I take boards on June 9th. So everybody who's listened to this, who's in medical school, knows that it's that crazy time when you're studying for boards. But it's awesome being on a panel with, three amazing, osteopathic physicians, because you realize that, there is a light to the end. There's the light at the end of that tunnel, and you're like, okay, put in the long hours. It's going to be worth it. And luckily, and we'll dive into this with the episode, but I got to see that at such a young age from seeing my dad do it. So I always knew there was a light at the end of that tunnel. But I'm so happy to be here with three amazing osteopathic physicians, and yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Harvey, you really touched on it. It's the pride that a dad has to see their son or their daughter want to follow them in our footsteps. And none of us ever pushed, because we knew what this life is about. This life is about hard work. It's about long nights. It's about being on call. It's about missing family dinners, but it's about helping people. And I know you. I've known you for years through the POMA, and it's about helping people, and the way that has conveyed from us to our sons, and again others folks whose daughters have followed in their footsteps. It's really the amount of pride that I have, and I know you have. It's really hard to describe.
I agree. And I think one thing I found out in growing up with my son, many times my colleagues, physicians, all they would say to me was, I wouldn't let my kid be a doctor. I won't let him do it. And no, that's wrong. I mean, let the child choose himself or herself. and go the path they want to go. Don't dissuade them. I mean, obviously, it looked like I did something right because my son seemed to want to follow in my footsteps, and he certainly did very well. And I have to tell you, the pride of I'm the father and the son, that he took the road of internal medicine. And being a family physician, I was able to refer my patients to him as a hospitalist. And there was no greater pride than when I would tell a patient, yeah, you're going into the hospital and my son's going to take care of you.
Right.
And boy, did that make a difference.
Yeah, and how about those great stories that they came back and said, you know, Dr. Spector took such terrific care of me. You can tell that he's a chip off the block. That's just, you know, that had to be, your head had to be like this by the time that conversation was over.
It was, and that happened many, many, many times.
I'm
And
sure it did.
I was proud to do it. And I have to say, and all due respect, my son is a fantastic physician.
No doubt. No doubt.
So,
Larry,
so Jeff, let me just tell you, so my dad, still practicing. Dad, tell how many years you're still practicing?
59.
59 years. To the group listening, I promise you, I do not think I'll make 59 years. So I love what I do. I love what I do, but not so sure I'm making that 59 or 60. But truthfully, just the other week, I have a patient in one of my nursing homes that is my dad's patient. And one of the proudest things that you can hear is, oh, wow, great, Dr. Spector, you're here. I know you're going to be good because your dad saved my life. All right.
wow.
I mean, literally the words, and let me tell you, every time I see this gentleman twice a week, he continues to say, your dad saved my life. And I can tell that you're just as good as him. So, you know, there's not many words that you can hear in life where you can be proud to be, you know, the son of a physician. So that was just, you know, something that came unexpected. My dad had told me that he was coming to the facility, but I didn't expect to hear those kind of words.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just to kind of piggyback off that real quick, I can absolutely say, so before I got to medical school, I took a gap year and I worked as a medical assistant in my dad's office. I was, you know, your standard medical assistant doing phlebotomy, rooming people, calling people with lab results, all that kind of stuff. And one of the biggest things that used to really tell me that I know I'm on the path to doing what I want to do and what I know I want to do is the amount of people who knew me when I was in that room with them, and they would just say, I can't tell you what your father has done to help better my life or who has prolonged my life. Like until I started seeing him, until I started really listening to him, I was like, I remember that we had a patient who literally said, you're like the very same thing. Your dad saved my life. And that pride that you take is, you know, kind of drives you to be like, okay, this is what I want to do because I want to help people. Like I've seen my dad help people before.
Yeah. So Larry, when do you think it was for you that you decided that you wanted to follow in your dad's footsteps?
Great question. So when I was younger, probably 8 or 10, I know my dad still has the pictures in his house. I would go to his office, and my mom also, you know, worked there as part of the staff. And just it interested me as a young kid. I just thought it was pretty cool that seeing patients. And then as I got older, I started to, you know, just be around him and just saw that even though medicine is almost the same thing every day, it's clearly not, right? Patients come in either feeling well or not feeling well, and the doctor evaluates them, but it's a different day every day. I understand in finance and business, it may be different on the stock market, but it's still the stock market every day and selling stocks. Medicine was clearly different. And I just, as I grew up, I started to realize that, it's pretty interesting. You need to be intelligent and be due diligent, and you get to meet people every day, unless some of us want to be pathologists or radiologists sometimes. But I just felt that it was something that I wanted to do. But I got to tell you, Jeff, that it was a hard road, as you know. And there were days when I was at the University of Delaware and at PCOM that I made a call to the senior Dr. Spector and said, I'm not so sure I can do this. So, Matt, I know you're going through boards, but it was some really rough times in some of those classes. But clearly I made it through and, really enjoyed it. So that's really how I did it. And I love it now. I do want to say that to me, I transitioned from office medicine. My dad and I did work 3 years together when I first came out, and it was an honor to take care of a lot of his patients. I would do the night, the later shift in the day, and he would take the day shift. But then moved into the hospital realm, and that was where we could partner up, where he would send his patients through the ED and I would be able to take care of them and then send them back to him. That really was really pleasurable, because then I had my own style and my own way of treating patients, and then could hand them back to the primary care doctor, which is exactly what I love to do.
Sure. Harvey, I don't know how you handled those phone calls that you got from Larry. And I know that Matt's gotten a little tired of me saying, yeah, and
You're right. That's exactly what happens. But actually, it's interesting because I've gone through it again. My oldest grandson, my daughter's son, graduated from PCOM, and he's now finishing his first year in internal medicine at Cooper. So I'm hearing the same thing over again, and but I'm really proud of him. And he's again, he was brought up. My daughter was not in medicine. Well, she was. She was a pharmaceutical rep, so there was some part of medicine there. And his father was in and is in biological research, so he did have some kind of a background, but apparently something from me rubbed off, and he only wanted to go where I went and where my son went, and he did, and he graduated. And just to give a plug to my son, his youngest son is just finishing he finished his first year at Bucknell in pre-med, and so we're hoping that he's going back to follow into PCOM.
Yeah, we'll see. But the most important part that you said there, distinguished Dr. Spector, was that your grandson is an internist and not a primary care doctor. So I think
internists have primary care in their blood too.
The uncle had a lot of swaying rather than the grandfather there.
Yeah, but who has to know more, right? The primary care physician has to know everything. Everything.
Here we go. Yeah.
It'd be nice to just know half the population, right, Harvey?
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Matt, when I kind of have an idea of when it kicked in for you, when you wanted to kind of go down this path. But let's hear from you, as someone who's following in footsteps. So what was your journey like? When did you decide that it was something you wanted to do?
Oh yeah, I can tell you exactly when it was. So my story is a little bit different than Dr. Spector's, but so I watched my dad, be a staple of every office he was in, whether he was whether you were down in Red Cedar, or whenever you came up to Enola and you opened up Enola family practice. And that showing that that you were able to provide good quality medicine, be there for the community, really meant a lot to me. But I went into college thinking I don't really know what I want to do. So I remember I was an undergraduate. I was the DUS, Division of Undergraduate Studies. That's basically when you go into Penn State, because I went to Penn State. When you go into Division of Undergraduate Studies, it's like, I don't know what I want to do. So you basically kind of go in and I remember my first semester, I had an econ course, I had a physics course, and I had a microbiology course. Econ was boring. I didn't want to keep doing physics because that just, again, it was mind numbing. and I fell in love with microbiology. And I thought to myself, okay, well, maybe I'll go into pharmaceuticals, or maybe I'll go into a research lab. And then I remember I took a job with UPMC here back in Central PA. They had the Cardiovascular Research Institute. And I remember I was just, kind of pulling data for doctors so that they could do research projects. And I remember I got one of the doctors came to me and he said, "Hey, do you want to see what one of these procedures is like?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." He said, "All right, well, on Tuesday you'll come in and you'll see what it was a catheter. It was a CT catheterization through radial entry." And I remember just, putting the lead on, having all having the gown on, having all the PPE, and standing in the OR room. And I was just thinking, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. And that's when I kind of fell in love with medicine and really fell in love with, okay, now I found my path, but how do I want to tweak that path and make that really what I want to do? And, this kind of came back with, seeing Dad, seeing what he did, the impact that he had on my life. And that's when I really fell in love with family medicine, because I saw my dad, he's seeing patients as old as 1 day old, going all the way to 99 years old. And I thought to myself, okay, that's really what I want to do. I respect, 'cause I have people in my class right now who are like, yeah, you know what, I want to go be a neurosurgeon. I'm like, thank God you want to go do that, because I couldn't. That's not me. I want to go do family medicine. But yeah, no, I remember there's like that, I think everybody really has that time. There's that click where you just go, okay, yeah, this is really what I want to do.
Yeah. That's
Jeff,
great.
question, Jeff.
Yeah.
Why stop at 99? I go to 106.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I've had 300-year-old plus. I've had 3 total and I've been doing this for till I got done with residency and everything. I'm right around 25 years, and I've had 300 plus, but I don't think Matt's met any of those.
I don't think so.
So I have 102 right now in one of the homes. And at one point when I was working at Elkins Park Hospital, and my dad knows this, I did treat the oldest living Pennsylvanian at that time.
That's
and
great.
She was 105.
Wow. That's great.
And she had fallen and fractured a hip. Who thought, 105 would fall and fracture a hip? So I do have a question for Jeff and for my dad. So Matt, your school, PCOM now, the same campus as where your dad and I went. Where I went to school, and you and your dad, is a little different than the campus that my dad, right? Dad, you went to a whole different campus.
Yeah, 48th and Spruce.
Right. So I think that's something that's very interesting, is that how PCOM has evolved. And of course, the campus now, Matt, is not the campus that I was at. I mean, it's grown leaps and bounds. But I think it was interesting to hear when I was in med school, a lot of the stories that my dad had, but it was at a totally different campus. So I guess Matt and Jeff, whenever you're back at the campus, Jeff, do you go to the anatomy lab and bore your son with all the stories of what we had to do? And when we played ping pong with the anatomy team when we were between classes, and oh, by the way, Networks was the only bar on a medical campus at the time that we would go.
Right.
It's now a dialysis unit, but we would go and have a nice drink after finals. So
right. We always met there after finals. You're right.
Yeah. How were those conversations for you, Matt and Jeff, in terms of going back to the campus?
Well, it's really funny because the biggest change that I take away from the campus now is the way Roland Hall has changed with the gymnasium and I remember the bookstore. You walked in and the bookstore was there. Well, they don't even read books anymore. Everything's on computers. Everything's electronically disseminated. And that huge basketball gymnasium that they have. If we wanted to play basketball, we went out on the outdoor court back behind the
where we now have OMM lab. where we now
Yeah.
have OMM lab. That's where you guys would play basketball.
That's basically right. So, and the way we walked in was different, and the hospital was there. And I go back and I look and I'm like, wow, is this different? He gets sick of hearing it. They've got it too easy.
No, okay. Hang on. I will say, yeah, no, it is, it is fun talking with Dad about, the differences when he was there versus when I'm here. Cause he talks about, I'm blanking, it's Roland Hall and, I'm blanking on, I don't know why. Evans, thank you. This is what studying for boards for 12 hours today makes your brain. Evans Hall. But one of the big things that I remember we were going through when we did our the walkthrough during the open house that we went to, right?
Yeah, that's the first time you met Dr. Spector, Larry Spector.
Yeah. And the open house that we did, and I remember they just redone the whole PCS department up in Roland, where they had all of the exam rooms,
all the labs and stuff.
And I remember seeing you just blown away, just being like, "Oh my God!"
That's where we did OMT.
Yeah,
that was our OMT lab, where all of those places are now. That was where we did OMT.
Yeah, but I will say there's two things that I think will always stay constant, not on the PCOM campus, but at least near the PCOM campus, is that Chili's on City Avenue and that TGI Fridays in the parking lot by the hotel. Those are always going to stay there, because that's where we go now after exams, because there's no, that's like you said, Dr. Spector, that's a dialysis place. We can't really, we walk in there after finals, they kind of give us a funny look.
Yeah. So
well, let me tell you something. You don't know anything. When I first went to PCOM, it was PCO. That's what it was called. The anatomy lab was in the attic of an old building at 48th and Spruce, unair conditioned. Okay. Try being in there on a hot May afternoon. And with the bodies and the odors, it's an experience. So when my grandson was thinking of going to PCOM, we went to a lot of open houses, and they took us on a tour. And when I saw the anatomy lab, I almost fainted. I mean, it was fantastic compared to what we went through. So
yeah, no doubt. Another thing though that I see in the family Spector doctors is leadership. I see leadership from both of you. And we're being hosted today by POMA, and that's how I first met Harvey, was through POMA, working together on the POMA and on the POFPS. And Larry, you're working with the school in a leadership role. You're working with the admissions committee. You're also a leader in your practice and in the things you're doing with Temple. And I think that's an important part of being an osteopathic physician, is advocating and being strong for the osteopathic profession. And I just want to say thank you to both of you for what you guys have done to keep this all moving forward and keeping it alive for your grandsons, my son, your son, Larry, should he decide to go in that direction. And I just wanted to express my thanks to both of you for the work you've done.
You're welcome. We appreciate your work too and what you've done. So, and we hope Matt will follow right through.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Jeff. And one thing about PCOM, growing up, with my dad and just living what he did and how he graduated from there. That's why I teach the cribs to the first and second years, and why I'm on the admissions committee, and how I met you on the open house when they were having them, was because giving back to the school is very important to me. and for Matt and maybe my son, the next generation of doctors that are going to take care of us. And that's one of the things that I harp on every student at PCOM, is that you are the next generation to represent us. But I did it because I know what my dad has done, for that school, and just have to give back to the life that I owe that school, and I owe my dad.
I will say one thing. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but like, that is such a palpable thing to use a pun term, but it's a palpable thing at PCOM, especially because when you have people who come back, like, Dr. Spector said, for the crib sessions, everything like that, you can feel, and Dad, things that you've done too, you can feel that wanting to give back to the school that you were, you got your education at. And it's something that I'll say from a student standpoint, we feel like we appreciate that, and it's something that we definitely take into to heart with us.
I think more than giving back, it's perpetuating.
Yeah.
We want to perpetuate what PCOM has been to us, and have it continue to put out fantastic physicians that are going to give just great care to their patients. So,
are you gonna make them sing if they get something wrong on radiology?
Well, yeah, we could do that in honor of Dr. Meals.
Yeah,
Dr.
one of
Mills
those
did that.
you see, I already set it up, right? The stories that come back of the ping pong until 2 a.m, the
Yeah.
networks and the singing with Dr. Meals. I mean, those are classic times that your father and I had at that great school.
Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed spending this time with all of you. And there's really, 3 generations here. And I know that the things that Harvey, you've done have made this profession stronger. Larry and I are doing our best to continue it. And Matt, it's going to be in your hands and the hands of your classmates to keep it moving and to continue it. I want to really thank all of you for taking time out of your day to do this. I want to give you, if there's any last words that you want to say before we sign off and put this in the box. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just one thing again, just coming from the student standpoint, and as soon as this podcast came out, I was going to try to put it over social media so that my classmates could see. Coming from 3 fantastic physicians, such as you guys, if you could say to a student, it doesn't have to be PCOM, but if you could say to a medical student or somebody who's thinking about being in medicine, what's one piece of advice or one piece of one thing you would say to them in terms of what they want to do to accomplish their goals?
We'll start with Dr. Harvey, and what do you have?
What I would say is this: there are many wealthy people out there. There are owners of sports teams, etc. But when the physician walks in and they call him doctor, there's a sort of a more of a respect that I see, that and I feel that it's been earned, but that respect will never go away, and I'm really proud of that.
Dr. Larry?
Yeah, sure. I would tell a medical student that it is one of the most rewarding and difficult professions, because you see the whole scheme of life, as we've talked about, from delivering a baby, when you're a medical student or an intern. And then for me, 103 or 105-year young patients, but also, being there for family members that you've known for years when someone's really sick. There's not many professions where it's hard for me to keep on imagining every day. And I say this to my family, that people talk to me and I'm making decisions for their lives, where probably, Matt, you don't know this, but for my dad and your dad, it's almost run of the mill because we do it every day. But when you look at it from an outside perspective, that is the most rewarding profession that I could ever do, where people are putting their lives in my hands and trust me, and how I go home every day just appreciating that I'm able to do that. So regardless of how hard the days are, and insurance companies and family members sometimes are difficult, it is still one, I think, of the most rewarding professions that I could have ever chosen.
Yeah, I'm going to echo those sentiments 100%. But what I would tell a medical student is enjoy the process. If the process has become too tedious for you, find a way to recenter yourself and enjoy the process, because you're going to be learning for your entire life. The learning never ends. You're going to go to CMEs, you're going to go to conferences, you're going to learn constantly because medicine constantly changes. So find a way to enjoy the process of what you're going through. There's going to be tests. There's going to be continuing certification issues. There's going to be all of that, and just embrace it. Embrace it, because what you're doing, as Dr. Larry said, is you're making such an incredible difference in people's lives that it's all worth it, because it truly is the greatest job you can have.
Yeah, and I think just kind of, again, circling back, it is awesome being on this panel with three amazing, physicians, because there is that light at the end of that tunnel, and just kind of going full circle with somebody who's currently studying for COMLEX 1 to somebody who's been practicing for Dr. Harvey. Please remind me, how many years again?
Same age as your dad.
59.
Yeah, so I'm so happy we were able to do this, because I think it's really encapsulates a full circle of the process of medicine.
I just want to tell you, Harvey, in your first year of practice, you could have delivered me. I was born in 63.
There you go. I could have.
Yeah. And Matt, tell your classmates that light at the end of the tunnel is not another train. There is actually.
I'll make sure to let them know.
Well, just Matt, good luck with your exams. I know my grandson just finished taking his licensure exam from his residency, and we lived in hell for about 3 months. So good luck.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Dr. Harvey. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Well, you're welcome. It was a pleasure being here, and I hope some people who are listening get something out of it.
Yes, me too. And to all the fathers out there, I wish you a happy Father's Day. For all the children of the fathers who went on to medicine, I say congratulations, because you're in a great profession.
Thank you. Echo it. Take care. Nice
All
to see
right.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome. Take care.